Michael, I'm going to begin with you because it's interesting timing. I think I saw you in Black Bag like a week and a half ago, and then I was rewatching this, and it's interesting because this is a much grittier depiction of a spy movie, although I think both of them, you're great in them and show different sides of it. Was that sort of the appeal when you wanted to take on this project and come to television?
Not really, no. I mean, I got the Black Bag. I just got an email from Steven Soderbergh, and he was like, "Hey, what's up, Home Slice?" He was like, I got something for you. Take a look at it." And he sent me the script, and I read it that night, and I emailed him the next day, and I was like, "I'm in." And then literally, I think 2 days later, I got the agency.
Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, this is great." I would have maybe chose one or the other. I don't know. I'm not going to say which I would have chosen, but they were both so great, and I was like, I wanted to do both of them. So it just happened by chance.
Wow.
So it was literally like finished Black Bag, had a week off, and then straight on to this.
Wow.
So I was like, wow, it's all spy stuff now for me. It seems. But yeah, different types of sort of telling the story. I knew Soderbergh wanted to, go back to something of another era that was going to look sexy. It was going to be very stylized. It wasn't going to be, the depressing sort of 2-bedroom flats that people go back to in spy world, like something, coming out of the cold, or a spy comes out of the cold, or Tinker Tailor or something like that. And then this one also, had a bit of that too. There's, it's got a sexy element to it. It's not that full on kind of, depressing sort of.
I mean, we saw the scenes between you two. Yes.
Okay. But I mean the style of it, how it's presented.
Sexy element.
But it is very much sort of steeped in, the granular elements of this world. It's what I loved about the scripts, and it's something that I enjoy in television storytelling, is that sort of foundation that's laid down in the first few episodes. You've got to lean into it as an audience. You're not going to get like a lot of crash bang wallop straight away. It comes later, you invest, and then all these different strands that the Butterworth brothers, written so well, start to then manifest, and sort of, from episode 5, 6, things start to ramp up. And I kind of like that way of telling a story.
Yeah, the seeds that you plant in these first episodes, which, first of all, how many of you have seen past episode 1, if any? Okay, so a few of you. Good. But most of y'all, this is the only episode that you've seen. Yeah, I said a few. This is typical, though. And all of y'all, this is the first time you've seen the show, first episode. All right, cue it up on Paramount Plus when you get home. But what's interesting about your character and what they'll realize throughout the series is, in a way, he's kind of emotionless. That's kind of the point, is he's trying not to let anyone around him know what his motivations are. He's trying to keep it blank. And I feel like you're such an expressive actor. Like, that must have been an interesting sort of challenge for it to sort of, again, you are playing things under the surface maybe that the audience can pick up out later. But for the most part, he's having to, like he is in that last scene across from the computer when he's talking to her, almost be expressionless when she's saying things that could be very devastating to him. So how did you approach that?
Yeah, it was something that I've thought a lot about because, first of all, being a sort of spy is, you've kind of got to be a forgettable person. You don't want to be sort of somebody that sticks out in somebody's memory of a night out, So there has to be a sort of non-flamboyant personalities, nothing really memorable about a personality. It's kind of, you've got to be present, but kind of no hot or cold. You don't see a lot of range of what's happening. So that was definitely something that I was thinking a lot about. I was like, well, where can I give the tells? Where can I let the audience in? And how much do I show? This person is sort of, I find, lying and telling the truth in the same manner. He doesn't even know when he's doing it or not, or maybe he does, but it's become so second nature. that you can't tell the difference. So the idea is like, is he lying now? Is this for real? Is this a real emotion, or is it not? Is he really invested in Samir, or is he not? And then as the story goes on, you realize, oh, he is. But you're always sort of left, he just seems like a kind of nice enough guy, and then you realize, well, he's actually a sociopath. And that's a good thing to be in this profession, because that means that you can sleep at night, and that means that you're fresh the next day to do a lot of dangerous stuff and compartmentalize things. But that was definitely a difficult sort of thing for me to find. And again, I'm thinking about it now, looking, at season 2, how much you reveal and show. That is for sure the trickiest part for this character for me.
I will say when they get to the end of the season, they will see there are a lot of tells, and you can tell them once you know more about the story. So that's a treat for all of you to sort of unfold as you watch more episodes. Mr. Richard Gere, sir, yes, we should do that.
Sir.
Sorry. I'm sorry.
Sir?
I'm Southern.
But I remember my life changed when other actors called me Mr. Gere. I said, Mr. Gere?
Well, I'm sorry. My mother would kill me if I said anything less, so apologies. Has nothing to do with age. The one thing I will say, though, is your performance in this is kind of outstanding, and I love everything that you're doing. But what I think is really interesting is your character is sort of the embodiment of what Michael's character would be if he figured it out, if he got to the other side of it, if he could be a little bit more emotional and present. But I wonder in that sort of like mentor-mentee relationship, if you could preview a little bit about whether or not you think that's actually good for his character. Because as I was watching the show, I kind of at the end of it wondered if the fact that you two are so close, if that's a good or a bad thing for either character. I'm curious if you thought about that when you were approaching this performance.
Well, I think I have to understand everybody. I'm the daddy in this, obviously. And I think I have to have an emotional and philosophical overview for everybody, that they know in the end, if they come to my office, I'll have an answer, some kind of an answer for them, and create a context for them to deal with very complex emotions. I mean, everybody in this piece is doing things that we hope are for the ultimate good, but it's always hurting somebody. And I think all of us are basically good people in this, but this is a profession that isn't meant for paragons. It's meant for broken people who can live in that gray area. And look, Bosco, as we know, isn't even his real name. Nothing is real about this guy. And I kept pulling back. I don't want to know more about his backstory. I want him to exist in that moment and be a cipher in many ways. I see what these guys are going through because I've been on the street myself. I know what's going on, and I know the dangers. And although I'm close to Langley and I'm close to Washington, I don't even know what's going on some of the time in this story. But I still have to be the daddy figure, which is like not usual for me, you know. So that was a bit of a stretch. But it's an interesting relationship we have because I don't think we're close in this. It's not like we go out and have a drink, but I think there's an innate belief that we can trust each other to a certain degree. And I think the close-ups between us is you never know exactly what we think about each other. You know, I think Henry and I are close people.
Ish.
Well,
Yeah, it's interesting that the dynamic, you brought it up. I think what's really kind of important for the Martian character is that there's a person that he presents to them. That they think they know him, but the other person is totally different. So there's a consistency of personality, but there's slight variances in the conversations and the relationship that I have with Sammy, his daughter, and the people that he works with. The relationship with Henry, you know, I'm subservient to Bosco because I have to be. I want him to feel like he is the daddy, you know.
And in charge.
And
yeah.
in charge. But at certain points you can see where I've crossed the line, where I've lost that little bit of control. But whatever is being presented, whether it be an emotion, it's a lie. You know, that's the character. So if he comes to Bosco emotionally, that's an activity. He wants him to feel sorry for him. But it's not a genuine thing, perhaps. You know, it's all a play to get an objective. And the people that Martian's working with are not necessarily his allies at certain times. They're also a sort of enemy he's got to navigate. You can see he's been called back. 6 years is too long to be out there. It wouldn't really happen in a real life situation. It's a long time for a non-official cover to be out there. So when he comes back, he doesn't want to come back. It's too late. They're recording him, so they're listening on him. So there's a trust element. There's contempt. There's a lot of things going on within the office for him and the different relationships. But it's manipulation of each different person for whatever purpose is required.
I think the one character that knows especially how long you've been out and how dangerous it is yours, Jeffrey, because, I mean, it's that great moment in the trailer, obviously. But I think what is more interesting, and maybe the reason why Bosco and Henry can have a relationship, is he's the only one that kind of shows any emotionality. But even in this place, it's like stunted. I'm curious for you, did you see yourself as sort of like the emotional light of the piece? Because I felt in a lot of ways you are. Like, you got one of the only smiles.
What are you looking at?
I'm talking about towards the end. I will just say there's a phone call that Jeffrey's character does, which is a moment of joy when things sort of like, I honestly felt that was one of the most upbeat parts of the whole thing. Maybe I'm wrong. It's a very dark piece. Listen, I'm not trying to say that he is Mr. Sunshine and Rainbows, but
occasional rainbows.
Occasional rainbows.
But
yeah. So how did you approach that? He lives a little bit more in the world.
I think that for each of us, for each of the characters, there's an emotional undercurrent that's there, kind of roiling or not, simmering, you know, but it's there. I think that's what really is the focus of the piece, more so than the espionage of it all, more so than the geopolitics of it all, is like kind of these human strains between us and how they are either, you know, revealed or not. It's really kind of the world that we inhabit is really just that. It's a backdrop for these more psychological interplay, you know, that happens between us. So I don't know. Is Henry that? I suppose there are moments, that he is torn between responsibilities to country and responsibilities to family, and I think that as well is a part of the tension between Henry and Martian. Is he's got a professional relationship, but there's also this kind of there's respect, but there's an admiration. There's a human element that gets in the way of what is, you know, ideally, you know, to be done in service of whatever mission it is that they're responsible for. So yeah, I think you're right.
We'll see.
It was not it was not intentional on my part. It was really just kind of what's in the script, and I think what you know, the subtext of a lot of what's going on is about, you know, the humanness.
I think that relationship, with Henry is an interesting one, isn't it? Because there's a lot of, if you want to call it like love or friendship there. You know, Henry took Martian under his wing and taught him, you know, the ropes. But it's interesting because both of them are so different about how they go about the work. Because I throw the rule book out the window,
right,
and anything goes. And Henry's all about the rule book. Because otherwise you lose your compass, you lose your rudder, and it all becomes sort of quite chaotic, right?
Well, I think that's where Henry gets his effectiveness, is via the system. He's a civil servant doing a job that has national security implications. So there are a set of rules that empower him to be more effective. There's a book called Confessions of an Economic Hitman. You read that book? It's about a guy. He was CIA down in Latin America at one point, and he writes this confession after it. But there's a great section in the book where he says, "The one thing that you never did, or that I never considered doing, was breaking the law, because I had whole reams of U.S. law behind me to justify whatever I did. And the whole system was subterfuge. So there was no valid excuse for him to step outside the bounds of what were his guidelines, what were the regulations, what was the directive from the agency, because it was all in your favor. So to throw that out, put yourself at greater vulnerability. And I think that's what this tension is with between Henry. It's like, dude, I don't care who you are, what you are, do the job as it's described, because that way we will win. And anything else brings into question, or seeps in vulnerabilities, personal vulnerabilities, and also larger vulnerabilities, because again, it's national security interests. So that's Henry's a by the book guy, because that's what got him there. And I think it helps him. It helps him to be good at what he does. Because as well, Henry is not a guy, I grew up in D.C., I grew up with, hey, give it up for D.C., come on. Particularly now, give it up for my people of D.C. And, my mom, worked for the government, federal employee, U.S. Customs. She was a lawyer for Customs for like 35 years. And
she was just fired, right?
Dude. My mom passed 5 years ago. Thank God, because she would have been doing some firing of her own. Trust me. So kind of understanding these people who go in a little bit, from a personal anecdotal perspective about civil servants and what the responsibilities is, and particularly for a guy like Henry. Henry's going to do that by the book, because that's how he got there. He's good at what he does. He does it out of a sense of responsibility to himself, yes, but a larger responsibility. And he recognizes that he's there, right? Not because he was a TV show host. He didn't get the gig that way, particularly for a black man in that position. He got there by being fucking good. And so that was, I'm going to break it down just, in the parlance of the times. Understand, he didn't get there through incompetence. He didn't get there through skirting the guidelines. Not going to work that way. That's all mythology. That's myth, that people in a position of such a level of national security responsibility, like him, get there because somebody is doing him a favor? Nah. He got there because he does his job, and he does it well, and he does it as it's described.
Wow. I think a perfect example of how The Martian is completely different is the woman to your right, because every aspect of their relationship is him throwing the rule book out the window. To be fair, I saw those outfits and I understand. But Miss Jodie Turner-Smith, I will ask you about this, because the sort of central question of this is, does he love her, and is she a spy? That's like at the heart of everything, right? But the scene that really illustrates that is their goodbye, with his voiceover and what y'all were doing sort of on the day, that goodbye scene between the two of them that plays very differently than the one he describes. Just walk me through that day, because I know reading the scripts, like how important that scene is, but also how I'm curious what the stage direction said, because so much is not being said in your dialogue. So yeah, I'd love for you to start, and then Michael to talk a little bit about that day.
So that episode was shot by Joe Wright, who I think is so brilliant at capturing, the sort of longing and angst of people that can't be together or can't stay together. So, there was always meant to be, I mean, essentially what Martian and Samia are, they're our star-crossed lovers, right? This is supposed to be this nuclear relationship that justifies all of the insanity that we see unfold. You know, we see Martian literally ready to risk it all. So, I mean, I don't know. It was just, I tend to generally throw out stage direction in the script, and we sort of just put it on its feet and see like what makes sense. But I mean, obviously it's such an important scene to kind of show you something about our relationship within our actions that is obviously going against the things that Martian is saying about it. You're seeing him describe it in a way that it plays out completely different, and something that is, and you see it's a choice because he wants to keep that for himself. You know, he doesn't want to share that with his job, you know, and so yeah, I don't know, that was kind of a...
Actually, what was interesting was we shot it as a scene, and it was in the script as a scene, but then in the edit it gets chopped up, and I think it's much better. So it interplays with Martian coming back, being recalled, and it's in snapshots of it. And actually, I thought it worked better that way because I saw both edits, it's that was the one thing for me, you know, doing television like this for the first time. You know, I've done like a lot of guest characters and stuff like that, but to do like 10 episodes and come in, and that for me is the difference, the luxury of time. You know, coming in and you're like, okay, where are we going? Block this scene, you know, and then you got to shoot it, and it all happens fast. And that in general, everything we're shooting, it's like finding a blocking that works quickly and then shooting it. And that day was, you know, was interesting because we did play around in the space, and we had a bit of luxury of time on that day. But for the most part, you're hitting the ground. You got to get in there and figure it out quick.
I mean, it is. I know y'all shot this like a movie in a lot of ways, especially with the camera and the operators and the directors. Obviously, Joe Wright, Pride and Prejudice, Atonement, so on and so forth, and so many others. But one thing I was really interested in is it really does add to the pantheon of great spy stories because it does have its own identity. And so just as a little bit of curiosity, I'd wonder if you all could tell me your favorite spy. And I will say we can't say James Bond because no, because that's like the easiest one. And I want to hear about some different flavors.
I have personal relations with.
Well, we know you.
Felix.
Bond. Now you're gonna make.
I know. Okay, like, can we bless James Bond and say that he's amazing, and then also get your second choice? Okay, can we do that?
Well, the great Val Kilmer, Top Secret.
Yes, that's a great one. Anyone else?
Harriet the Spy.
Yes.
Honestly,
This is
I think it
iconic.
imprinted on me as so young, and yeah,
That's iconic.
100%.
I was gonna say Maxwell Smart from Get Smart. I watched all of those. Yes.
Scarecrow, Mrs. King.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
There's a remake there. This is bound to happen.
Yes.
Maxwell Smart, the original, the TV
Yes,
show,
the original one. Yes.
Yeah.
First
yes.
one that comes to my mind is the Ipcris file.
Oh, yeah.
That was Michael Caine.
Yeah.
I forget who the director was of that.
That's that was one of the inspirations that were part
For-
of Black Bag.
Yeah. That was like the guy that was, I guess he's also the agency. The Matt Damon one was also the inspiration. He's been the inspiration of over 20 different spy thrillers.
Well, what's interesting about the Ipcris file, Michael Caine's character is supposed to be like you know, into his gourmet food, and you just see how much we've changed over the decades because he's buying champignon in a tin.
Yeah.
It's like canned champignon. It's like, ooh, fancy.
Fancy. Now you get beluga in an influencer party. Okay. Anybody else? All right.
Favorite spy? Okay, I'll give you a favor. Does it have to be fictional?
It could be wherever, yeah.
How about you said Harriet the Spy?
Yeah.
How about Harriet Tubman?
Yeah, she was really a spy. She was.
Spied on
She
behalf
did
of the
scouting.
The original
for the
Harriet the
Northern
Spy.
Army.
Yeah, there you go. The Union Army.
Facts. I dig that one. Okay, bringing it back to more seriousness. again, I can't wait for y'all to see the show. It really does drive into the narrative. And you're right, it is a bit of a slow burn as it comes across episodes. But with that in mind, there's a lot of action to it. And I think everyone gets into it a little bit. Even you on, I will just say, there's a lot of camera work that you're doing, a lot of iPhone work that you're doing later that I feel like that's a bit of an action scene. No, Jodie. Oh. Yes. I don't want to tell, it's like I'm trying to speak in code because only 5 of you have seen the show. I was trying to be generous. They don't know that in the camera, by the way, Michael.
A little bit of dodging and dipping and diving. A little bit of dodging and
exactly.
Henry has his action moments.
Yeah, you have that.
Behind the desk. All behind the desk. Reading those
Chasing
memos.
mice.
I'd like for you, Michael, if you could preview some of the action, because I know that you're disappointed you didn't get to do any of the driving. Did you get to do any of the other stuff, or what stuff did you get to do from the action stuff? Because I know you said you didn't get to do the driving, which you were. They should have let you.
Well, it's just time, you know. Everything's sort of time. What did I do? Well, we did the stuff in Egypt.
yeah, that was so fun.
Yeah.
Tease it a little.
So it's basically, you know, an early scene with Samia and Martian, where she is sort of part of a protest outside a university, right?
Leading a protest.
Yeah, leading the protest.
She's a revolutionary.
Yeah, revolutionary.
No, really, she is.
Yeah. And that was then edited down as well. We didn't get to see a lot of what you were doing there. But, there, you know, and there's a rally and there's a protest going on. And then the police come in and put an end to that. And so we're trying to, you know, escape from that. So I guess that was one of the action sequences. We got to ride on a motorcycle together and run around the streets of Cairo. And I'm trying to think what other action stuff I had.
There were some fights that I thought.
Oh, there was a couple of fights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do fight. But it's the action stuff is not like the stuff that really stands out for me. It's chosen when it comes. It's kind of fast and nasty.
It is, but that's what I say. The nasty part is what I wanted them to preview. Is like these are real action scenes, and and they do it, and a lot of driving.
Yeah. There's some there at the end too, which is quite shocking.
Yeah, we have to get out of here, but I want to let everyone know that season 2 has already been approved.
We're starting in a couple of weeks.
I was going to say, I know you're starting filming. Can anybody give me anything? Just like a quick, anybody want to give me a quick hit, season 2? It could be one word even, like, because we don't have that much time anyway.
Well, they let me out from behind the desk.
Oh, that's a good tease.
And I'm doing all the action sequences. Michael's not doing any in the second season. It's all me.
I don't know.
And then we're all fired.
I was like, did you clear that with Paramount? No, that's a good tease. If they,
it's an empty office in season 2.
Exactly.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I'm gonna get out of here.
There's a guy from there's a circus clown who's taken over the office and is manning the barricade on behalf of America.
Okay, before Reddit writes this up and it ends up in some some blogosphere, I want to thank the incredible cast of the agency. The SAG-AFTRA Foundation, and of course the folks at Paramount Plus.